Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching this video. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss about some foundation basics. In my previous tutorials, when I did my face makeup and all, a lot of you had questions and said that I went really fast and I wasn't really going in depth about what kind of tools I'm using for applying my foundation, what is the type of foundation that I'm using, and how do I prep my skin in general before I apply the foundation. So today's video is going to be all about it. I'm going to discuss about the types of foundation, what is the correct type of foundation for your skin type, what are the different types of primers that are available in the market, and what is the right kind of primer for your skin type. Also the prep that is required before applying any sort of makeup on your face. So today's video is going to be all about that. So without wasting any further time, let's get into the video. So hi guys, so before starting on with our makeup, so I have cleansed my skin, I've exfoliated my skin, and I've moisturized my skin. These are the three things that I always do before applying my foundation. Now what it helps, obviously cleansing, you know why it is required. Now exfoliating is also important because as you can see, I do have a lot of acne scars and there's a fresh acne always on my face. So what I do is, obviously I cannot cover the fresh acne on my face. Even though I apply foundation over it, you can still see the bumps. Now what I can do is, I can exfoliate, and because I do have acne scars, once the acne dries up, it gets very flaky. So applying foundation on a flaky skin is always not recommended. So that is why I exfoliate my skin, because the dry cells are removed, the dead cells are gone, and I have a clean, smooth surface. That is what I always recommend you to do. Next up is applying the moisturizer. Apply any moisturizer that you've been using so far. I would also recommend to apply a moisturizer along with the SPF in it. If you travel a lot, if you go to work, or if you're going out in general wearing makeup, so that is what I would recommend. I use the Estee Lauder Day Wear Moisturizer. This moisturizer really suits me. I've been using this moisturizer for a very long time. This also has SPF 15 in it, so it takes care of the sunscreen part as well. So that is what I would recommend. Now I do have oily skin, so I mostly stay away from moisturizers which make my skin look greasy, extra greasy and oily. So I stay away from such kind of products. So if you are on the dry skin type or normal to dry skin, I would definitely recommend to use a very good moisturizer which gives enough hydration to your skin, so that it doesn't look extra dry, because you do exfoliate your skin and that would definitely make it look that definitely takes away all the moisture from your face. So applying a moisturizer is a must, so I always do that. Now coming to a primer. Now why are primers important? Primers have not been generally primers have not come more into the limelight since a very long time. They're quite recent actually. Many people never used to wear a primer before applying a foundation, because they never thought it was important. No, primers are very important guys, because your foundation depends on what kind of primer you're using on your face. Now applying a primer, there are different types of primers for different skin types. Again, as I said, I'm on the oilier side, so I prefer using a primer which is oil free. First of all, foremost, it should be oil free for me. I want it to smooth, because a lot of you, everybody has pores guys. That's the fact of the world. Everybody has pores. Now the size of pores, of course, varies from person to person. I myself personally have huge pores, hence I have oily skin. So a lot of pores are in this area. This is where many people have pores. So these are the pores. This is the area where I have huge pores. Now I want my pores to be covered, so that when I apply the foundation on top of the primer, my foundation looks very smooth and doesn't look bumpy, if that makes sense. So what I do is, I take a primer which has silicone in it. Whenever you buy a primer, just look at the ingredients at the back of the primer. This has aqua water, this has dimethicone, which is a silicone ingredient. So yeah, that's good for me. This is silicone based primer, and also this is oil free, so this is best for me. Now if you have dry skin, normal to dry skin, you can go for any hydrating primer, which basically all primers do have silicone in it, but the percentage of silicone is different in different primers. So for instance, if you're going for a hydrating kind of primer for dry skin type, if you're going for a hydrating kind of primer, the percentage of silicone will be less compared to the percentage of water based, the aqua. So that is what it is. So for oily skin type, silicone, because it smooths, it mattifies, it's oil free, and it helps foundation lay wonderfully on top of it. If you're on the drier skin type, choose a primer which has aqua, water, these kind of ingredients in it. I hope I'm making sense, guys. I've never really talked so much in a video. So yeah, that is what you have to do. So primers are really important if you want your foundation to last all day, if your foundation to look flawless, if you want it to look perfect for your skin type. Choose the right kind of primer. So in today's video, I'm using a new primer. Actually, this is the Milani Prime Light Face Primer, strobing plus pore minimizing, oil free. This is 1 fluid ounce, which is 30 ml. Now this says that this is oil free, but it is going to also give me that extra glow. So always for it, I mean, I want glowy skin without it making it look oily. So yeah, I thought this would be a perfect one. So I'm just trying this out with you for the first time. So this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to apply it in my T-zone and areas where I have huge pores. It also says that you can apply it after you've applied your makeup as well. So it can be used post applying your foundation or before foundation while you're prepping your skin. So that is what I'm going to do. Also guys, you have to be like really careful. I'm just taking a very small amount, guys. I hope you can see this is the amount that I'm going to apply on my skin. And that's because when you're using a silicone based primer, as I said, it's a pore minimizing primer. So what happens is when you're applying it over your pores, it goes inside your pores, fills your pores, and that is the reason you're left with a smooth surface. Now if you're not really careful, if you use too much of silicone based product on your face, too much of primer onto your face, it will create small lumps and your foundation isn't really going to sit over your face very beautifully. So you have to be very careful. You have to apply very little, and also while you remove your makeup, you have to be extra sure that you're removing all of it. Otherwise it's just going to stay inside your pores, it's going to clog your pores, and then, well, it's not really pretty. So I'm just, this also has a tiny reflex because it's strobing. Strobing is nothing but highlighting, guys. So yeah, it has this gold flecks in it, slight gold flecks in it. So I'm just going to take this and apply it on my main areas of concern. Also guys, I'm sorry, there's a lot of breakout on my face. I don't know, I deal with adult acne apparently, and there is nothing really that I can do about it. I will keep getting extra pimples throughout my lifetime apparently. All I can do is like take care of my skin the best I can. So I'm just gonna push the product in so that the pores are filled, and you can feel it. Once you apply this primer onto your face, you can feel the smooth surface on your face. So yeah. So next, after we have applied the primer, we are going to move on to the foundation. Now also there are different types in foundation. There's a matte foundation, there is a hydrating foundation, there's a lightweight foundation, there are sheer foundations, then there are BB creams and your CC creams, the usual. So for me, if you want high coverage like I do, because whenever I go for a foundation, I make sure that it is matte, obviously, because I've got oily skin. So I take a matte foundation, I make sure that it is medium to high coverage. And yeah, these foundations also have silicone in it, because as I said, if at all any product has silicone in it, it is meant to give you the matte finish. So yeah, that is what a high coverage foundation has. Now that's for oily skin. Because I have oily skin, I always tend to move towards matte foundations. Now if you have normal to dry skin, you would like to go for a more hydrating sort of foundation. Those type of foundations have lesser silicone in it, as I said, and also they are not as thick as matte foundations. So So whenever you see a matte foundation, when you squeeze out a matte foundation, apply on your face, you will feel the foundation on your face. You will see that it has a very thick consistency. That is the foremost thing that tells you that it's a matte foundation. Now hydrating foundation are more liquidy, they are not as thick as the matte foundations. Now hydrating foundations are for those people who have really dry skin and they struggle with dry skin and they want that luminous glow on their skin. So for those kind of people, I would recommend a more hydrating sort of foundation. So that's that. Also there are lightweight foundation, there are silicone free foundations as well. Now a silicone free foundation is something which is very lightweight, which is not matte, which is not going to give you much coverage. It will give you a good amount of coverage if there are foundations that can be built up. By build up I mean once you lay a layer of foundation and then you go back to lay on another layer of foundation on your face, it looks good, it blends well. So that is what I mean by layering of foundation. So for a very silicone free sort of foundations, they are very lightweight and they would definitely need to be built up to have that kind of coverage. Now there are many people who prefer silicone free sort of foundations because it doesn't clog your pores and you do not have to work really hard to remove your makeup. So many people who do have huge pores and they do suffer from clogging of pores pretty often, they go for silicone free sort of foundation. So if you're that kind of person who is like, no, I do not want my pores to be clogged, I already suffer enough, so you can just go for a silicone free sort of foundation. Always check for the ingredients, guys. That's where you'll find all the information. So whenever you're buying a foundation, check out the ingredients, see what type of foundation it is. First, understand what type of skin type you have. If it's oily, if it's dry, if it's normal to oily, if it's normal to dry. First, understand the type of skin that you have. Then buying the type of primer, buying a kind of moisturizer, buying the type of foundation becomes just easier. So because I do have oily skin, I mostly tend towards matte sort of foundations which are medium to full coverage. So in today's video, I'm going to use the Huda Beauty foundation. One of my absolutely favorite foundations. I love how this looks on my skin, and a very little amount goes a long way because this is definitely a full coverage kind of foundation. So how I usually apply my foundation is, I just take a couple of pumps. I think this much is enough. Just a couple of pumps on the back of my hand. As you can see, this is a very thick foundation. It's very clear that it's a very thick foundation. So I work in sections. So what I do is I just take my clean finger and I dot it on my face. So as I said, I like to work in sections, right? So once I've pretty much applied the foundation on my face, now there are three options that you have. Either you can use a brush, which is mostly what I do, or you can use a beauty sponge, or if you are like, dude, I'm not gonna invest in any brush or sponge because I rarely wear out makeup, just use your fingers. Now fingers, for me to now use my fingers to apply my makeup, it would really creep me out because I'm used to applying it with a brush, guys, as simple as that. But make sure that your hands are really clean before applying the foundation. And it is said that the best way to apply your foundation is using your fingers because the heat in your fingers helps blend the foundation flawlessly on your skin. So yeah, you can use your fingers as well to apply the foundation. Just make sure that they're very clean, so that, you know, obviously make sure that they're clean, and then you can just tap it and you can just blend it out. Now the kind of brushes that I use for applying my foundation. Now, as I said, guys, I never really used any branded brushes for applying my foundations. I just go to Amazon and type makeup brush sets, and there's a long list of makeup brush set that comes, and I just choose the best one. I'll try to find the link on Amazon, guys, and I'll link it in my description box for you so that you can find these makeup brushes. They're very cheap. They work wonderfully well. So I'm going to take a flat brush like this. I hope you can see. This is a flat brush. This is a very dense brush, guys. By dense, I mean that there are more number of bristles in this brush, and you can see that it's kind of how do I say this? you can feel that it's dense, and you can feel that there are more bristles in this brush. If there were less number of bristles in this brush, it would just soak up the excess product, I mean almost all of the product, and then you're left with nothing much on your skin. So make sure that it's dense, it has got more bristles, and yeah, make sure it's flat like this. Or you can, they also have like angled foundation brushes, but for now, just for the beginner sort of sake, just go for brushes like this. So I usually take a brush. Now there's another option which I said, which is a beauty sponge. This is the Innisfree covered stamping puff. Now what I do when I use a sponge is I wet my sponge really well. I put it under tap for and I squeeze it for like 25 times or so, and then I squeeze out the excess water. I make sure that it is damp. Now for those who like the glowy finish even when they're using a matte foundation, and they do not have to be careful with the amount of foundation they are applying on the face, you can use a sponge. Because what a sponge does is, when you're using a sponge to blend out your foundation, because the sponge is damp, the excess product is immediately absorbed by the sponge, and you have a very smooth finish on your face. It blends so well. It definitely takes time when you're blending with a sponge, but it blends so well. It helps your foundation look less cakey, guys, when you're using a sponge. So for those who like a smooth, like a dewy kind of finish on their face, I would definitely recommend using a sponge. Now I usually use brushes mostly. Because well, it's faster to apply. So yeah, and I'm used to applying my foundation with a brush, so that is what I do. So I take my brush, I hold it like this, and I just buff in my foundation. So this is the way that I buff in my foundation. As you can see, guys, I'm not dragging my foundation around, right? I'm just tapping in the brush and the foundation into my skin. So what tapping does is it gives you high coverage onto your face, as opposed to dragging the foundation on your face. Another cool thing that you can do is actually apply the foundation with your brush, right? Just be as messy as you want with it. Just apply it with a brush, and then take a damp sponge and then tap it around so that the excess foundation is absorbed and it looks smoother. So that the excess foundation, just use a damp sponge. This makes sure that the excess product is absorbed and it looks flawless and it looks smooth and dewy. So you can do that as well if you have the patience and you have the time. So yeah, that is how I apply my foundation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my face. I love this foundation, guys, because it is so full coverage, and as I said, I love myself a full coverage sort of foundation. So the same thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use tapping motions as opposed to the dragging motions. Also be a little careful while using a matte sort of foundation, guys, because some matte foundations, once they are settled into your skin, they won't move. No matter how much you try to blend it out, they absolutely won't move. So I would always recommend you to do your face in sections like I do, so that you have enough time and you don't have to rush in to blend your foundation out. I'm just gonna go ahead and do my forehead. Also tapping motions. I don't think I've ever spoken so much in my videos before. So yeah. Oh, also guys, if you're new to using foundations, if you've never used a foundation before and you want to know your right shade of foundation, there is only one way you can know the right shade of foundation, which is by going to the store, trying it on yourself, and then saying how it looks on your face, because that's the only way you'll ever know your shade, guys. Do not purchase your foundations online if you are a beginner. Definitely go to the store, feel the foundation, touch the foundation, see how the foundation is sitting on your face. I mean, just go to a MAC store, guys, I mean, and ask them to do a full face of foundation on your face. They will just do a foundation, the concealer, the powders, everything. Go back, go into natural sunlight, see how it looks, feel how it looks, then come back after an hour or so, and then you will know if it's the perfect foundation for you, or if it's the perfect shade for you. So that is what I would always recommend you to do. So now whenever I apply a foundation, guys, I also bring it down my neck, because if you don't bring it down your neck, you can see the clear line between the foundation and your natural skin color, which is pretty obvious. So you don't want that. So I always bring my foundations down my neck and I blend it out, because you always want a blended foundation. So that is what I do. So I think the foundation is pretty much blended in. So this is how I apply my foundation. Simple, right? I hope so. So yeah, that is what I do. Now, a cold hard truth: applying just the foundation on your face is never enough, no matter how high full coverage the foundation actually is. So always, I mean, it's a given, guys. Use a concealer always with a foundation. It's a given. So now also the same thing goes for choosing a concealer as well, guys. Concealer in general are high coverage. There is no light coverage or no medium coverage kind of concealers. I mean, there are some concealers which claim to be medium coverage, and they do give you medium coverage, but most of the very good concealers are definitely high coverage, because the basic task of a concealer is concealing, right? So you have dark circles and you want it to be concealed, you need a damn good concealer. So that's what a concealer's job is. A concealer should be full coverage, high coverage concealer, so that it covers your dark circles, the dark spots on your face, and yeah, so that's what a concealer is used for. Now for me, I use a concealer which is one shade lighter to my foundation. So let's say the foundation is numbered 1 2 3 4 and the concealer is also numbered 1 2 3 4. So if I'm using a shade 4 in my foundation, I use the shade 3 in my concealer. Now why I do this? I do this because I like the highlighted look. I like the high points of my face. Now what are the high points of the face? Under your eyes, middle of your nose, on your forehead, and on your chin. These are the highlighting areas. So for a concealer, so I want my face to be really highlighted. So that is why I use concealer which is one shade lighter than my foundation, because I love how it looks, guys. It gives you the 3D kind of effect, if it makes any sense. So I really like that. Now if you're someone who doesn't like that highlighted look on your face, by all means choose the same shade in the concealer as in the foundation. So if you're a beginner, just choose one brand, guys. Choose one good brand. Do not go for cheap, do not go for an inexpensive brand. Choose one very good high level product, high level brand. I'm really out of my words. So yeah, use that kind of a brand, one brand. So for supposedly you're choosing a MAC, right? Buy a foundation in MAC, buy a concealer in MAC, and buy a powder in MAC. So that ways you'll know what to do. So if you're buying a MAC foundation, you know what is the one shade lighter in the concealer for that foundation. You know what is the exact match of concealer in that foundation. So I would definitely recommend you doing that. So yeah, so because as I said, I do like that highlighted look, so I'm going with a concealer which is one shade lighter. This is the Makeup Revolution concealer. I absolutely love this concealer. Works excellently well, as I've said in all my previous videos, in most of my previous videos. So that is what I'm going to use today. So I'm going to take the concealer, as I said, high points of my face. So I want the dark circles to be gone. So that is where I'll apply first, right? Makes sense. So I'm just going to apply here, here. And I like to bring it down because I really like that highlighted look. if you apply the concealer just below your eyes, you'll just end up having those white patches under your eyes, and ooh, it's not good. Trust me, it's not good. So always whenever I use a concealer which is one shade lighter, I make sure I bring it down, because if I don't, then it's just gonna look like a white patch under my eyes, and then I look stupid. I mean, I look stupid right now, but I'll blend this out obviously. And here on my chin, I'm also going to put a little concealer at the corner of my lips, because I do have pigmentation there. Nothing wrong in accepting your flaws, right? I do have pigmentation at the corner of my lips, so I'm going to make sure that I apply my concealer there. Now, you can use the same brush that you've used for your foundation to blend out your concealer as well. Nothing wrong with it. Use the same brush that you've used for your foundation to blend out your concealer. So yeah, I'm just gonna start by blending out my chin. This concealer blends out beautifully, guys, absolutely beautifully. Yeah, so I'm gonna continue blending this. So I'm gonna start at the bottom, and then I'm gonna look up to the sky, look up to the gods, and then blend this out. This makes sure that your concealer is getting as close to your eye as possible. I'm also going to bring out the concealer onto my eyelid, because I'm also going to use this as a primer for my eyeshadows. That's a completely different video, but I'm just saying. See how beautiful the concealer blended, how beautiful it blended out. The same thing on the other eye, starting at the bottom, looking up to the gods. Same tapping motions, no dragging motions for us, guys. I never use dragging motions on my skin, never, ever, ever. I hope you learned something from this video, guys. I hope at least one of you messages me and says me, okay, I learned something from your video. That would make me really, really happy, because I hope I'm making sense. So I think the concealer is pretty much blended. Now the next step, guys, which I'm about to do, is one of the most important steps when you're doing your foundation on your face. Now, the foundation is liquid, right? If you do not set a liquid product on your face, it will move. It will be tacky. If you touch your face like this, or if you're sitting like this, the foundation is going to come off in your finger, and then you're going to have a patch over here which has nothing on your skin, and it is really going to look, it's not going to look good. So what I do is, it's a must, absolute must for you to set your foundation and your concealer, especially your concealer, because if you do not set your concealer, because it's a liquid product, it is going to go into the lines. It is going to sink into the lines under my eyes, around my eyes, at the corner of my eyes, and all over my face, which is not good, guys. It gives you that, it makes you look old. Trust me, it makes you look old, because it's going to sink into those lines, and the wrinkles on your face are accentuated. I'm 26 years old. I do have wrinkles. Nothing wrong to accept that. I do have them. I'm gonna have to live with them. So I want to make sure when I apply my makeup on my face, I do not want the concealer product or the foundation, which are the liquid products, to go into my creases. I've already wasted a lot of time explaining this to you, because whenever I apply concealer, I have to move like this to apply the powder on top of my concealer, because that fast it sinks into the wrinkles in my face. But I'll also tell you a trick what I do so that there are no creases before I apply the powder on my face. So as I said, for beginners, choose one brand, go for the foundation in the same brand, concealer in the same brand, and the powder in the same brand. But I do not have all the same brand products, so I'm going to use a loose powder. Now powders also come with types, right? There are loose powders, and then there are pressed powders, which is the powders that you have like in a compact. So this is an example of a pressed powder, and this is a loose powder. You can use any sort of powders you want, whatever suits you. So what I do is, especially for a loose powder like this, I take the product onto my cap. Now for applying a powder, right, you do not need your brush to be as dense as the foundation brush. So we can just choose a brush which has less bristles, which is soft, which is fluffy like this, big like this, because it will cover more area at once. So for lazy girls out there, so just take a big brush, a big fluffy brush, and then just apply using this sort of brushes, less dense, less number of bristles, because it's powder, so we don't really need, you don't really care if the powder gets absorbed. Powder is obviously not going to get absorbed into the brush, so just use a fluffy brush like this. So I'm going to dip my brush into the powder like this, and before I do, I'm going to take my foundation brush, again look up, make sure that it is smooth, make sure that even though the foundation has gone, concealer is has sunk into those lines, I'm going to blend it out. I'm going to blend out the concealer once again and just put the powder over there. I'm going to tell you about baking, what is baking exactly, what kind of cooking stuff I'm talking about and all that in another video for this, but just for now I'm just telling you the basics. So yeah, I'm going to take the powder and apply it first where I've applied the concealer, because the areas that I've applied the concealer are the areas where I have lines, right? So that is the area that I want to tackle like first, and then the rest of my face. So that is what I do. So setting is, so basically what I'm saying guys is setting is very important. So even the same goes in buying a powder as well guys. You have to make sure that it matches your skin tone. It's not too light, it's not too dark, because if it's too dark, not flattering. If it's too light, you can say that it's too light. Oh, I always do this guys. Always my problem with the loose powders. So if you like, you don't want to mess up your clothes and all while applying foundation, then don't go for loose powders, just go for a pressed powder. So I'm just going to take this. So this is a banana powder. No, this is this powder has a yellow undertone, right? Because my face has a yellow undertone, sort of yellow undertone, and for a skin tone like mine, if you are the same shade as mine, this will definitely look good on your skin, because it will give you the brightened look, and yeah, it will look good on your skin. So basically yeah, that's that's the kind that I use. So if you're a beginner, just buy the same pressed powder shade of foundation, and then just apply it on your face to set the foundation and concealer in place, then you're good to go. So yeah, so yeah guys, that is how I do my base. Now this is just the base. I've applied the foundation, the concealer, the powder, the primer of course, and the moisturizer. But yeah, this is how I do my base. So these are the types of products, these are the tools that I use. I will definitely mention in the description bar down below what sort of what sort of brushes I bought from Amazon for a beginner. They are very inexpensive guys. I think these are the best if you're just starting out in makeup and you do not want to invest much. So yeah, you can do that as well. So yeah, that's it for this. I hope you learned something from this video guys. I hope that I was able to make some sort of sense. I'll also leave some links, useful links down below, where you can learn in depth about the types of foundations and the types of concealers and all that.